welcome to At Issue. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm H. Wayne Wilson. For the next half hour, we're going to be talking about retraining our workforce, and we're going to do that with the presidents of two community colleges. But before I introduce them, a little bit of history for you. You'll recall back in the 1930s during the Great Depression that there was the Works Progress Administration, the WPA, a federal program. Years later, that was followed by the Comprehensive Employment and Training Act, or CETA. And after that, in the 1980s, we had something called Job Training and Partnership Act, JTPA. Those programs, to a large degree, were intended to create jobs for people funded by federal dollars. Well, what we're seeing now is that we're putting workers into the private sector with retraining, much of that retraining done at community colleges. And to talk about that issue, we have Dr. Lori Sundberg. Dr. Sundberg is the president of Carl Sandburg College. And so did you want to do your alliteration here?
Yes, Lori Sundberg at Carl Sandburg College in Galesburg.
Okay, that's enough of the Bergs. We won't have that problem with Dr. Irwin. Dr. John Irwin is the president of Illinois Central College with several campuses in East Peoria and Peoria. Thank you both for joining us. I appreciate your making time in your schedules.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me start with, I gave a little history lesson here about programs that were federally funded that created, for the most part, federal jobs, Works Progress Administration, strictly make work back in that era, which at the time might have been important. However, we're seeing a completely different focus. How is that transition working for the community college in order to get the workers trained for private jobs in the private sector? Are you training based upon what the government dictates? Are you training on what you believe to be the case, or are you training based upon what corporations need?
Well, I think our colleges stay very much in tune with our community and the flow of workforce needs that are out there. And I think that comes from building good partnerships and relationships with the employers in our community. Whether they're a big business corporate or they're a smaller business, it's really keeping a listening ear to what those needs are going to be. We have certain agencies that are entirely devoted to workforce and workforce transitions. We have a regional workforce board, that several of them that we work with at ICC, and those are another way that we have access to that kind of information. And we've talked about advisory boards, the importance of each of our programs at the college having a group of professionals who are from that discipline, from that area, to regularly advise us on how we can stay connected with those workforce needs.
So this helps keep you relevant.
It does, and I think I just talked to you earlier and talked about, we just met this morning with Burlington Northern Santa Fe. Very direct relationship with them. We do have advisory committees, but we also meet one-on-one and try to discuss their future needs as well as current needs. For example, Burlington Northern Santa Fe is going to be having a large number of retirements next 5 to 7 years. So how can we help them, not just today, but 5 to 7 years from now as well?
I assume you meet with Caterpillar and other companies of that nature, the hospitals, what have you?
Sure, there's regular contact, and certainly medical education or medical training is really fundamental to our Peoria area, and of course so is manufacturing. I was thinking of other ways we get information about workers and workforce and how it kind of flows for us so that we can be responsive. In the Peoria area, we have a rapid response team, and that team is comprised of Illinois Central College, people from Bradley University, Eureka College, and even from some other businesses. But we'll go out to a business when they're having a let's say, cutting back of workers, and we'll help those workers build their resume, go through some individual interviews, and see what kind of options that they will have available to them. Most recently in Peoria, it's been Komatsu, who has had a downturn in workers, and the response team, the rapid response team, has been out there to assist with that. Our Career Center is also a partner in that endeavor.
And you probably know, as we lost Maytag Refrigeration 2004, I believe, and we actually set up an office at the plant, and we met with students, with workers there that wanted to transition to be students. We did assessment testing there. We actually held developmental coursework there. because they announced enough time ahead. I think it was like 2.5 years before the final worker was out. And so, you know, we try to figure out how can we meet their need and meet all the workers' needs. And for the most part, a lot of those people hadn't been in college for a long time. So how can we do that very effectively, and how can we have them ready to go when they do close? And so very unique relationships that we develop with our corporate and with our business partners to meet their needs.
That must have been a particular challenge, because as memory serves me, it was like 1,600 jobs, or a phenomenal number of jobs for a community the size of Galesburg.
It's 2,400.
Oh, 2,400. Well, see, memory is going. So,
yeah.
So
large.
When you have that number of people, granted you had the 2.5 year time frame, but how do you go out and work with other businesses and say, do you need any people? Are we training these people for the job that will exist, so that you're not just training and then they come out of the training and they say, okay, Carl Sandburg College, you trained me, now what do I do?
Sure, it was a multi-level response. WIA, of course, the board, the group, unemployment office, the state folks got involved, local. And so we did all kinds of things. We talked earlier about assessment testing. You know, if you're in this job, where do you want to go? You know, what type of career do you want it to migrate to? So all kinds, it was multi-level response to that. We're not called a rapid response team, but that's what really happened when that occurred, because it was devastating to Galesburg and to all of the workers. And so, you know, how do you put things in place for them and ease that transition, ease that reality, and get them into a new job? And it was something that we've never done before. It was a lot of jobs, and we just did it as we went along. And it was very, very effective, and it now serves as a model for us if we have another large employer who would leave.
When we talk about community colleges, the first thing that comes to mind is education, 2-year program. Kids either get an associate degree and go out into the workforce, or they go on to a baccalaureate degree. And now that definition has broadened greatly. How do you go about balancing these, you know, college preparatory courses versus the young student who wants a degree in diesel technician versus the 45-year-old unemployed person? How do you balance all of that?
Well, I think part of the way to address that is to look at the curriculum again and what kind of skills are needed. So we're finding more and more competency-based curricula than we've had in the past. There's still a fairly standard baccalaureate transfer pathway, the associate degree, associate of arts, associate of science. So let's put that aside for a moment. Those students do very well at ICC. At least half our students are still doing that, transferring then to Bradley or Illinois State or Western and doing fine. The other half of the students, though, fall into that category you're talking about in terms of being a worker out in the workforce, maybe underemployed, looking for another step to be promoted, or even another job that may need to be out there for them. So to that point, we've divided the curriculum up a little differently now. There are many more certificates. There's basic and intermediate and advanced certificates in these disciplines. So it parses up the learning a little more, and it allows that person that may even be part-time employed, that wants to be full-time employed, to take some classes. So I think that's one of the trends that we see in addressing that question.
And we have done exactly the same thing. A lot more stackable types of certificates where someone can get started with one certificate and then build upon that. We just actually came up with a new certificate in the manufacturing area, because we need just basics. We need tech math, we need blueprint reading, and then we have a course of each, you know, electrical, machining, and diesel, to find out what track do they want to go to. And so we've done much the same approach. The
other part of this is just taking even those certificates and condensing them even more into what's a manageable length of time to learn. And that's a faculty concern. That's a pedagogical question. How can we do that? And we've prepared at ICC job-ready programs. There's about 26 of those now. now that we're marketing everything from nursing assistant to welders to machinists to phlebotomists, and more recently even 911 telecommunication dispatcher. And you can't tell me we have a large demand for dispatchers, but there's some demand for dispatchers, and that's one of those skills that can carry over into some other types of employment, the same as welding. It's a good carryover skill into some other areas of work.
So does that define the difference, in part, define the difference between a 19-year-old and a 45-year-old? The 45-year-old is looking at you and saying, I'm going to lose my job, I've got a mortgage, I've got a spouse and a child. I want to get back to work as fast as possible. The 19-year-old sitting there, how many courses you got to take?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the 45-year-old person, we talked earlier, they're much more focused. They have an idea what they want to go into, and they're focused on doing it. The 18-year-old is still trying to decide, which direction do I want to go, what am I interested in, and that's okay. That's anticipated at 18, but definitely the 45-year-old is very focused, and they know exactly what they want to do.
Yeah. The largest major for ICC is freshmen that are traditional. The 18 to 20-year-old is undecided, and it's okay. It's okay to do some exploration. It can't possibly have been exposed to all of these things through their high school counseling piece. High school counselors are burdened with large numbers, and often scheduling is what they do. They can't do as much with career exploration as we might be able to do at the community college. Also, then what we would call a non-traditional student, or the worker that's in transition, razor focus, and there's a sense of urgency, and that comes from being a provider. And being a provider for a family or for oneself creates tremendous motivation, and I think I hear from our faculty they really enjoy having that cross-section of students. That intergenerational play really assists with a lot of the coursework, and then motivated students. It
actually motivates the 18-year-olds in some regard, because they will always say, most often say, the 45-year-old or the non-traditional students, they break the curve because they're so devoted to their studies. They're studying, they're getting good grades, and so that motivates actually the 18-year-olds sometimes to get better grades and to become more focused.
In general, so far we've talked about how ICC and Carl Sandburg prepare yourselves as an institution to offer these courses. How do we go about preparing the unemployed worker or the person who's about to lose his or her job? How do you make sure that that person is going to take the right course? Because you don't want to waste time if they say, gee, welding kind of interests me. How do you know that welding's the right choice?
Recently with ACT, a National Testing Service, they've created the National Career Readiness Certificate. That certificate is a measure of reading and math and information finding, those three areas. And what one does when they take that test is they have a score, and they actually score it then by a code. They could be bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. And those scores then become part of that individual person's account. And then when jobs are posted, a job may be posted with a particular score and a level that's needed. If you've taken that as a work key assessment, you know that you're eligible for or you'll qualify or compete for that job very well. So that, H, is a way we link the job, the kind of preparation that's needed for it, and some assessment, because that's that's a very basic entry-level tool that's being used.
And we have other kinds of assessments as well, because we talked earlier in terms of a lot of people believe that they want to be in healthcare because there are jobs in healthcare. They're usually very well-paying jobs. But it takes a special person to be in healthcare. And so you need to make sure that we match up their interests and their desires with the actual field that they're going to go into. Just having a job in a field is not necessarily the right reason to go to it. And so we want to match up that person and where they can be successful.
So that's a critical component to what you offer. In addition to teaching skills, you want to make sure that the job matches with the skills of that person. A person who comes into this training program, where do they come from? How do you let them know that this exists? Because the first thing that happens is I lose my job and I'm going, oh my word, and I call friends. And maybe community college isn't where I call. How do you reach these people?
We have a variety of publications that we try to inform people about what we offer. We always try to feature a non-traditional student. We try to feature all of our career technical education. You know, I told you earlier that we go to actual businesses and try to meet with workers. We could have people who are underemployed. We could have people who are considering another career. And so it's really reaching out to them through a variety of means, because the non-traditional worker is not as easy to capture. You know, you can, if you're going to do it with the 18-year-old, you can go to high schools because it's a very captive audience. But the non-traditional market is very different. And so there's a variety of ways that we try to reach out to reach them, because a lot of times they're not as confident either. You know, they might be sitting at home and they want a new career, but they're not as confident about making that phone call. And so we try to, that's where the one-on-one really kind of helps. We can give them that courage.
So you might even appear on a television program too.
It's one way to help. I think there's two other ways. One would be at ICC, it's the ICC Today, the issue that's quarterly that highlights programs for the college, new programs, or focusing on the non-traditional students' needs or the dislocated workers' needs. The other is our regional workforce boards, which really is an entry point, an access point for the worker who's thinking about being, looking for a higher wage, different employment, or maybe is unemployed. So those are key contact points for us to be able to reach that audience for our programs.
I want to talk about efficiencies, because my tax dollars fund, in this particular case, ICC, but if I lived over in Galesburg, it would help to fund Carl Sandburg. And I want to make sure that you're not just going out and offering just any old job training, and you're coming along and duplicating that, and then Spoon River duplicates that. Is there an overseeing board? Is there somebody that manages this, that says, first of all, the jobs are needed in these arenas, and we want you to do this training, and we want you to do that?
There is a governing body, the Illinois Community College Board, and when we submit new programs, we have to submit a feasibility study. So we just can't say we want to have this program and then we're going to do it. We have to demonstrate through data that there's a need for it, number one, that there's going to be a continued need for it for at least some time into the future. And then that's sent out to all of the schools, and schools have an opportunity to comment on that. They could say, well, no, we offer that. Could you give consideration to not doing that? Or yes, we have students who want to go into that field. That's definitely needed. So that's one way that we do it. But then informally, we work together, because there are scarce resource dollars today. And so it just doesn't make sense for all of us to have the same programs. So we try to complement each other and to work together.
So in addition to the governing body, the Illinois Community College Board, we work as colleges and college districts to create opportunities for our community. For example, Carl Sandburg has mortuary science. Illinois Central College does not have mortuary science, but if you were interested in it, we would talk to you at ICC about some general education classes, but then we would help you transfer over to Sandburg, and you would be paying an in-district tuition. That's back to your point, how is it cost effective and efficient? If you're a taxpayer in Illinois, as a citizen, you can rest assured that the community colleges are cooperating with one another. And where there's a program that's offered within your district, of course, you have that option to attend. If it's out of your district, we work with that other community college to create the opportunity for you.
Along the funding lines, we talked about property taxes. Of course, there's tuition, and then there's governmental funding. The state of Illinois has not been funding community colleges to the extent that they had been in the past. How has that impacted your offerings, in particular with regard to the non-traditional student?
Typically, with non-traditional, they typically will go into more career technical education, and we have had to be very cautious about our programs. We're very, we stay on top of it. We have a revenue cost report for every career technical program. I believe that we have really met the needs of our community, but we're very careful, and we're very, very careful with our resources. And those programs tend to be more expensive. The reimbursement from the state is higher because they are more expensive. So it hasn't affected us, I don't believe, in terms of we've cut a program that was greatly needed, but it's caused us to be very, very, very careful.
In 2009, at the point of the recession, community colleges would receive annually a workforce grant from the state of Illinois to assist us with these kinds of challenges. But as the recession hit, those funds dried up. I think that has left us with a tougher internal decision about limited resources. At the same time, it's placed a premium upon the partnerships with business and industry. We just could not offer many of our programs without the labs being equipped by the businesses, where they donate the pieces of equipment or the instruments needed in those labs, or in the hospital's cases, creating the clinical opportunities for our students. It's absolutely essential that those are there. We could not afford to offer those courses without it.
So a company like Caterpillar could donate an engine, a diesel engine, to ICC for your diesel technician course?
Every single Caterpillar dealership technician piece of equipment's been donated by Caterpillar. Those are hundreds of thousands of dollars each, and we have a multitude of them for the students to work on. Caterpillar's been a tremendous community partner in creating the stability for this program and maintaining its viability with new equipment, because the students, the technicians, have to learn on the latest equipment. So there's a constant recycling of that equipment. It's been a wonderful partnership. It's been in place now for a decade and a half, and I think it illustrates, though, overall what we need to do at community colleges to continue into the future with the opportunities for preparing that workforce.
We have a cardiac sonography program, and the equipment, tremendously expensive. And so OSF St. Mary Medical Center in Galesburg has provided their lab for us to use. There again, couldn't have offered the program without it.
The class goes to the hospital.
They do. They do, and they use their equipment. And perfect example of a partnership that we have.
So they have the latest, the opportunity to work on the latest equipment that's come out.
Exactly.
But some courses you have both new and old equipment, don't you?
Yes, we do. Machining's a good example. You could go into our lab in machining and you'll see old grinders and equipment that's used 40, 50 years ago, and there's not much change to some of it. At the same time, in that same lab, you'll look at another corner of it and you'll see modern computer equipment. I think it's really important that students have the breadth of exposure to what they may see in the workforce. Some businesses will not have modern equipment. They'll be using older equipment, or they'll have certain clients that will need to still use that older equipment for the product that's being sought. So yes, there's a mix of preparation for many of our students in these programs.
Which makes it difficult for the community college to say, okay, how many different programs do you offer?
There's
in this
over 150 career technical programs.
We have about 56.
56? Staying on top of this with all the different industries and working with the businesses, how do you manage that?
Well, we have advisory committees and we have coordinators for each of the programs, and so the only way to do that is to have direct advisory committees and direct contact, because otherwise you couldn't manage it.
Advisory committee meaning some hospital or some...
Industry leaders are on the advisory committees, yes. And so they're telling us, are your graduates, are they having the skills that they need? Do we need to change our curriculum? All those kinds of things. They also know about our equipment needs through those meetings. And they can provide that equipment to us. So definitely we have to have a coordinator and we have to have an advisory committee in order for this to function well.
In the closing moments that we have, I'd like you to get out your crystal balls and tell me what is next in regard to the non-traditional student. Where do you have to go as a community college? Because 20 years ago, I suppose you never would have dreamed you would be where you're at now.
I see a growth of virtual classes. That's somewhat counterintuitive to hands-on learning, but it's really critical that we have the ability to be on time, real time for students as they look at their work schedule. So the existing person, the worker that's out there that might want to add skills, I think the virtual option is a very important one. Or a single parent who might have children and she may need to flex her time a little differently. So I think you'll see a growth of virtual campus for community colleges. It's already there, but I think that it will be growing. At the same time, I think the traditional general education classes will become much more competency-based. We're going to be looking at how things are practically applied, even in the traditional areas of history and literature, etc. So I see those changes in the next few years. And then an amplification of the partnerships with business and industry. We just cannot simply afford to do these clinicals, labs, and have these applied experiences for students without that partnership.
Look to the future.
I would say, John, he hit all of them perfectly. That's exactly it. I think we're going to see more collaboration in the future. I told you earlier that we have the advanced certificates in radiologic technology. We have MRI, CT, nuclear med, and we serve, I think, 9 community college districts with that. Students do that work online, and then they go out to their own areas and do their clinical. I think we're going to see more of that, more efficiencies of scale.
Are community colleges uniquely positioned to be able to react quickly enough to do these things?
I think so. I think it's one of the unique features of the American community college system, that we're responsive, nimble, and hopefully we'll always have our ear to the ground or to the community when it comes to workforce needs.
And with that, the next step is to say, if you find yourselves in need of new job training, you could consider Illinois Central College or Carl Sandburg, or I might add Heartland Community College over in the Twin Cities. We asked Dr. Alan Gobin to be on, but his schedule precluded that from taking place. We thank Dr. Lori Sundberg of Carl Sandburg College and Dr. John Irwin of Illinois Central College for joining us on At Issue. And we'll be back next week with another edition. We hope to see you then.